Hello, I'm Martijn Gaat and this is Does Logistics Matter? A podcast on trends and innovations in supply chain and logistics. Answering yes to the question today is Didier Duponselle, Business Unit Director at Ahlers. On this episode, we talk about the developments in e-commerce logistics in Europe, the US and the Russia and CIS regions. We discuss the challenges Western companies face when they want to grow their business in Russia online and how to solve them. Please enjoy my conversation with Didier Duponselle. DJ, welcome to the show.
Hi Martijn, thanks for being here.
Yeah, DJ, my first question is always, does logistics matter?
Martijn, logistics is the backbone of the economy. It's a necessity.
I'm taking that as a yes. Great answer. Great answer. DJ, how did you end up in logistics yourself?
By coincidence. I was studying at university in Antwerp and you could not see besides the port, the containers and everything surrounding it. So it's very clear that would be my future at that time already.
Oh, I like that story because I studied business in Rotterdam, and so my view was even better because we have the port of Rotterdam.
We can discuss about that.
Yeah, I know. Oh no, both ports are great, both Rotterdam and Antwerp. So DJ, the topic you wanted to discuss was e-commerce, and I know you specialize in e-commerce in not in the Antwerp or the Rotterdam region, but in Russia and the CIS countries. So how did you end up in that part of the world?
It's actually the company and the owner who had a lot of affinity with the region already back from the Soviet times. That they operated vessels and agency services, developed into forwarding services. And with the fall of the wall in Berlin, we put boots on the ground in '93 already. So, and as from that, it developed into a forwarding and a warehousing player from the start. And with a sustainable vision already for over 25 years now and counting.
Yeah, that's impressive. So what I know from what I see here in Europe and what I read of what's happening in the US, e-commerce is booming, especially with the developments of the last 2 years. It's gone through the roof. How is that in the Russia and CIS region?
Well, I could say, of course, Russia and the CIS region is a developing. They are developing countries, so the growth pace is even higher compared today to US and Europe. Of course, e-commerce it's one more sales channel. Let's say it's a sales channel where the end customer is running the show, and whether you choose for it or not, if you don't choose for it, you better have a strong story. Being a producing company, and it's the same for logistics provider. In the end, we are working we call it derived demand. It's what our customers need, and we will make sure that we service what they need. So we work very, very much for retail, fast-moving consumer goods customers, and we feel that in these countries, the demand for e-commerce is picking up at an extremely high pace. It's the driver also of the warehousing demand even. Players like Ozon, Yandex, maybe names not familiar in these countries, but they can be compared with the Amazons of this world, in fact. So the driver and is enormous. And the reason is the internet penetration degree amongst adults in Russia is extremely high. Extremely high, more than 87% of people have a mobile smartphone, and they order online as well. What we also see, next to the fact that it's a habit for the people, it's an incredible gain for them. Do not forget, Moscow and St. Petersburg are two of the most congested cities in the world. So if you can after a day of work and you're still 2 hours in a traffic jam, and your vegetables and your meat to cook your dinner are at the front door when you arrive, or just at the shop next door, and you don't have to go there and spend and lose even more time, it's a
Yeah.
great convenience, in fact. So the level of convenience is a lot higher sometimes than what we experience in Europe or in the US. So next to the fact that the market is expected to triple in the next 3 to 4 years, and it's already substantial today. So the growth pace will be enormous. For example, we see the marketplaces like Ozon, they are investing today in around 1 million square meters every 6 months to
Wow.
increase their footprint. Yes, in the different cities, and not even the bigger cities, even the smaller cities, they are investing in locations to be close to their end customers, in fact. And of course, all the companies who are producing and who want to have their products on the Ozone platform, or they need to be in these warehouses, or they need to deliver very fast to these warehouses, or even direct to customers, because all the options exist very similar than what we have in Europe or in the US.
Yeah, I think it was your colleague Stefan that mentioned this to me as well. That this growth in e-commerce in Russia is leading to a huge shortage also in people, but also in warehousing space. So it's yeah, especially if there's an active company that expands in that rate, I can imagine that there's hardly any space left.
For sure, in the larger cities, we are experiencing this as we speak. Yes, and they are. It's actually to that extent that these companies cannot find anymore what they need in the market, so they are building, buying land plots and building themselves even.
No, I just wanted to ask. You guys have a solid a solid base of warehouses in the important regions, right?
Absolutely. We are in four of the biggest cities: Moscow, St. Petersburg, Chelyabinsk, and Novosibirsk, which then
Mm-hmm.
stretches all the way to eastern Siberia, and which is critical because many of our customers, they start mainly in Moscow or St. Petersburg, and then they want to grow into the different regions. So having a warehousing footprint covering the biggest portion of the populated area, of course, makes perfect sense. Especially, and again, I come to the why does logistics matter? It's a backbone. It's a
Mm-hmm.
backbone, and the backbone today within e-commerce is being close to the market, being close to the end customers or to these marketplaces.
And are there differences in the approach to getting products to people in the urban areas as opposed to the faraway areas? I mean, I can imagine that there's somebody in Siberia with a mobile ordering something on Ozone as well.
Absolutely. There is still a big difference. I mean, if you're living in the city center of Moscow, you even have the concept of dark stores where you can have your groceries within 10 to 15 minutes. So that's a
Yeah.
concept that exists today. Of course, if you're living somewhere in Krasnoyarsk in the mountains close to mining areas, very remote, it's still feasible. But you will have your goods in 4 to 5 days. So that's a bit the extreme, but that's normal. I mean, but before, do not forget, it could be 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks before you got your goods. So also this has accelerated to a certain extent.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge improvement. So what's the effect on the warehousing operations that you run of this increase in e-commerce activity?
Mm. It is developing. So we have customers in our fast mover consumer good business, in our retail business. Of course, they want to grow. They need to grow. We need to assist. So this means a huge change for our normal, let's call it standard distribution activities of putting an order 48 hours in advance. Today we receive orders before 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the goods need to be ready at 7 o'clock. They're ready for pickup, some even at 6 o'clock. So where before it was just like one order, like an urgent order, which we managed, now today it's almost 2/3 of the orders of these customers. So it puts massive pressure on people and on space, because you need to have preparatory zones, you need to have all these points. Besides that, it also requires integration between the colleagues from warehousing and transportation. So also there is a requirement for additional coordination, because these these trucks to pick up these goods need to be there at 7, need to be the right trucks, and they need to be there every day.
Yeah, and they need to be there on time, right? I mean, if you look at a warehouse, then the loading area is it's the most expensive area in the warehouse, because you can't do anything with it if there's truckloads of goods just waiting.
Yeah, correct.
And the longer the line of trucks and the more stuff there's waiting, the less room you have to actually do something that adds value.
I fully agree. But operating space today is worth gold. Because the faster you have your turnarounds, the more money you can make as well. So as such, it's worth the investment. But it is clear that organizing e-commerce adds costs. That's clear. It adds costs. But of course, if your customer can grow 30%, it is logic. He's willing to invest a few percent in more logistics spend in order to enable this.
So can you highlight some of the changes that Ahlers has made to its operations to accommodate this growth and these customers?
Yes, we have started. So by freeing up more operating space and zone, we have put actually computers on the warehousing floors, because these people actually even follow up the stocks at the marketplaces. For example, they follow up in the warehouse. Okay, how many of this product is put at the Yandex marketplace? So they actually are going to replenish. So they manage the replenishments from the warehouse. So we've invested in software to accommodate this. So that's also a portion. We have changed our planning of the people, because it's clear that if the majority of the orders comes in before 1 o'clock instead of throughout the day, that we need to have different people at different moments of the day. So we have more operators during the second part of the day, clearly. So we have changed shifts, which has an impact as well on many other things. So yes, picking zones, of course, we have expanded the picking zones on the floors, because instead of moving pallets, people want to move, you need to move boxes or pieces even. Also, we have invested in tables, and we are now having a project to see how far we should go with conveyors, because the more volume you have, the more it becomes interesting to invest in a semi-automated solution instead of purely manual labor, because labor is in these markets today also scarce.
So how do you guys solve that? I mean, apparently you can find the people, because you guys it works. What you're doing works, and you're getting the stuff out and making the customers happy. So what do you do in terms of your people that makes them stay, that makes them want to work at Ahlers?
Yeah, there are multiple reasons. I think being an international company, having very transparent, and we call them white salaries, is already attractive. I mean, we have...
Can you explain that term? I don't know the term white
salaries. The white
salaries.
Well, there are still companies within Russia who pay part of the salaries cash. So, yes. So there's many, but if it's going well, there is a lot of cash available. But if it's going less well, and there's always waves in economy, then of course people get a lot less, and it's not official. So you see they fall back to their white part of their salary. So we don't follow that reasoning. So we give a really stable, according to international framework, a salary package. with a very attractive environment, let's say. And that's much appreciated by the people. We also tend to pay market level or above because we want to attract the better people. Well, because we are not a cost leader, we ask for a small premium for the services, but that is reflected in the very high service which our customers get. And indirectly, it's a return for them because they have a lot less claims of wrong picking, of wrong packaging, of wrongly sending out goods, etc. So our customers appreciate it, and also our employees appreciate this. So that is one of the reasons why we have a good reputation and why we keep attracting very good people within our operations.
Nice. So how do you see developments in e-commerce moving forward in the Russia and CIS region?
You will have those who will make the choice to follow or those who will not make the choice to follow. But I think the future will be for those who make the choice to follow this new trend and who will change their processes, their network, and everything, their IT systems, in order to be accommodate this growth and this facilitating this new distribution channel.
So, and this is actually what you're saying sounds like the exact approach that Ahlers is taking towards logistics in general and e-commerce being specific.
Absolutely, we will be part of the successful flow.
So one of the things that you didn't highlight in this in your last recap of what's going to happen to e-commerce is the level of automation in logistics operations. So you were talking about increasing the semi-automation. Can you elaborate on that, on automation?
Yes, absolutely. Today, salary costs are still quite low, so it's less obvious to make big investments in fully automated solutions. The semi-automated is like putting conveyors, maybe doing the wrapping, etc., automating some kind of sub-processes. That's what's on the agenda for specific customers. If you have a bit longer term contracts, this is perfectly possible. Paybacks are very fast, so within 1 year, so this all makes sense. Of course, the trend today is that labor becomes more and more scarce. And also there is a lot of pressure on the salaries upward. So they become more expensive. And we do believe if this trend continues for the next 2 to 3 years, then it will become more and more interesting for more automation. But today we are in a salary level which still is feasible to cover that. So, but the trend is bound to come, but it's according to what we see in the market, still early.
So, and first it's on the level of semi-automation and conveyor belts, and then further in the future, the mobile robots that we're seeing moving in videos from Amazon and AliExpress. I
do believe the market players are doing this. They are investing in this already. Mm-hmm. They are investing in this because they have their own assets, their own warehouses, and they also see this growth, and they are investing themselves. We are coming one step behind them, in fact, in the supply chain. So we actually in front of them, we actually supply them with goods as such. So it's also a demand. So we probably will follow in 3 to 4 years, and it will all depend on the volume which we will do. They know this automation is driven by the labor situation, but also by the volume, and also by the error margins, etc. Today, these incredible large volumes of very small quantities is today yet not present within our part of the supply chain.
So you handle relatively larger volumes, which okay, that makes sense.
We actually have a combination of sending, for example, we do a lot of picking, but we palletize them, and those go to the marketplace, and then they repalletize them, put them in their conveyors and in their own system. But what we also have is a separate one, and this is growing, but not as fast, and also not for 2,000 different products, let's say, or producers, like the Ozons or the Amazons of this world. They have so many different, let's say, suppliers of goods. While with us, we still work for maybe 10, 15 fast mover consumer goods. So this amount of volume is still too low to justify these investments in automation. That's the big difference.
Yeah. You don't ship out as much yet on package level. It's more consolidated pallets.
Exactly. We do have it. We do it, but it's still marginal for us. It's still small because these our customers
grow. That it will you. So, but you do expect that to grow.
We do expect that to grow. Absolutely. We having now one customer for whom we are actually doing this already. They go directly, so they bypass the marketplace. So it's an end-to-end story. They have their classic sales channel. They have a retail chain. They have the marketplace. So they want us to deliver to Ozon or to other marketplaces. And they also have the direct channel. So where we organize delivery, at the end, customer, in fact. So, and for this last channel, we see this is still a very small portion of the business. And of course, if you have, when this would grow very fast, this would imply again that we need to extend our network, because we need to be a lot more locations within, for example, Russia or Ukraine, because we did not highlight Ukraine. Ukraine is developing almost as fast. But we need to expand then the network, and we need to be at more locations as well.
Yeah.
But it all depends on the volume, and today this is still limited.
So what we're seeing, or what I'm seeing here in Europe, and what we're seeing in the US as well, is also an increased focus on sustainability when it comes to these rising e-commerce volumes. How is that in your region?
Yeah, sustainability. It's a very double thing. On the one hand, all the producing companies who are multinationals are considering this, and they expect also to be as sustainable as possible. So that's clear. On the other hand, cost is still so important that sustainability is not always put at the first position in terms of making decisions or the way forward. So that's today's reality.
Yeah, and I know that you guys have find sustainability very important, but obviously everything you do in a partnership with the customer, and you can only do so much, right? I mean, it's both parties need to, I guess, invest is the right word, because you have to give up a little bit of your margin to become more sustainable.
Absolutely, that's what we tend to proactively do. We tend to show them their CO2 levels, and also we tend to we're doing these network analysis. If they are having some supply chains, we make full analysis, and we tend to give them advice to say, okay, look, you could optimize not only in terms of costs or service levels, but also in terms of CO2. So all these possibilities exist, but you need to have quite a good partnership with your customer in order to also receive all this information. We have a lot, of course, being their logistics service provider, but there is more, of course. You need to have also the value of the goods. You need to have also their strategy behind it. But for example, multimodal is always possible. If you always drive your truck to Russia, why would you not use the ship? The vessels are already a lot more, let's say, ecologically, and mostly in terms of price, it's very competitive. But on the other hand, they might be a few days longer on the road or on the sea, so the lead times are a bit longer.
Yeah, that's it, right? I mean, obviously, I mean, the plane is the fastest, but then it's truck because rail takes more time, and ship and barge take more time as well. And there's also maybe limited connectivity to certain regions or certain parts.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. Do not forget people railing within ex-Soviet countries. They are diesel engines. These trains are diesel
ah,
engines. They're not electrified. So, it, yeah, the arguments which
so
work in Europe don't work
yeah.
on that side, of
I
course.
didn't think of that. So
No,
that's not not a that doesn't have a positive benefit in terms of carbon footprint then.
exactly, exactly.
Okay.
And therefore, also, it's so important. Again, the distances are so long that you need to have all these local warehouses to
Yeah.
be closer to the market. So you see, the circle is getting round. Makes perfect sense. No?
Yeah.
And that will not change. I mean, that evolution will not change.
Okay, DJ. Well, thank you for explaining the e-commerce situation in Russia and CIS. I've learned a lot, and there are a lot of differences. So for companies that are from Europe or from the US and that want to expand and expand their business and do it with e-commerce in Russia and CIS, what advice do you have for them?
Well, it's quite simple. You need, in these markets, you need to have an experienced partner, a partner that you can trust, a partner who's there for a long time, who understands the dynamics, the speed of the dynamics, and who can guide you in making of your e-commerce story a true success.
Excellent advice, Didier. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom and your time.
You're welcome anytime.
Thank you for listening to Does Logistics Matter? For more on trends and innovations in supply chain and logistics, visit our blog at www.logisticsmatter.com. This podcast was produced by Dimitri Vleugel. The music is based on a sample by Ruggerman and produced by Michael Spengler. This episode was sponsored by Ahlers. For more than 110 years, Ahlers has been helping clients all over the world. Active in 3 regions, Europe, CIS and Asia, they provide state-of-the-art logistics and tailor-made solutions. Their services focus on supply chain solutions, warehousing, project and machinery logistics, secure transportation of high-value and/or theft-sensitive goods, trade facilitation and after-sales services, and supply chain data analytics. Ahlers finds the best solutions that fit the customer profile perfectly. They enable customers to stay focused on their core business and manage innovative supply chain solutions which add value. They solve supply chain challenges in complex environments. Find out more at www.ahlers.com. That's AHLERS.